What's up?
Hello there. What are we doing today?
Well, it's my day off, so I figured we go to the gym, lift some weights, go for a run after, maybe grab some coffee.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do it.
So what rotation are you on this week?
I'm on internal medicine, which is rough. I work Monday through Saturday, and I'm there from about 6:45 in the morning, and I leave at about 7:30 at night if we sign out on time.
And you probably never do.
Nope, we definitely never do.
That sounds rough. How do you make time to work out?
I try to work out throughout the week as best as I can, but it can be tough if my schedule is so busy like it is right now. So on my days off like today, I try to take advantage of it and try to do a full body split, hit as many major muscle groups as possible, and really just make the most out of the day.
Sounds like a good way to do it.
I think so.
So are we almost at the gym?
Yes, but we gotta make one quick stop. Let's go get some C4. C4, baby.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's good. Here it's like we're just like chatting.
All right, we made it to the gym. So what are we working out today?
So like I said, we're gonna try to hit some major muscle groups. We'll work our way down. We'll hit military press for shoulders. We'll hit bench for chest. We'll do some lat pull downs for back. We'll move down to the legs. We'll do some leg press, maybe some squats if we're really feeling it. Of course, we can't ignore the arms. We'll hit some bicep curls, tricep extensions, and the goal will be just to go high volume on all of these workouts just because we're going to be hitting one of each as a general full body day. So it's still gonna be pretty intense.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get after it.
All right, guys, we just finished our workout. It wasn't too bad. It was pretty good, I would say. You know, it would be nice to do something more focused where I could focus harder on some of my, muscle groups that I want to develop. But when you're working a super busy resident schedule, you do what you can. And in general, I just feel better that I even showed up to the gym today. I go through phases of training for marathons and wanting to add some lean muscle mass. And those are great goals when I have the time to do them. And my next race isn't for a few months. So right now, the main goal is just to stay in shape and not let myself, fall out of shape because of my busy workload.
So where are we off to now?
I'm thinking we actually keep the party going and go for a run at the park.
Didn't you just work 6 days this week? How do you have so much energy?
Well, it does help that we have our C4 Performance Energy. And guess what?
What?
They're actually the sponsor of this video.
Say what?
That's right, guys. The sponsor of this video is C4 Performance Energy. You guys might remember when they sponsored the channel a few weeks ago, and when they reached out to me, I was super stoked because I've been drinking C4 since I was like 18 after I went to my first Mr. Olympia competition. Whether you're a casual exerciser or an athlete, you've definitely heard of C4. Prioritizing my health and fitness while being super busy in residency can be very hard, and having a boost of energy with something like C4 has just been an absolute game changer. It gives me a clean boost of energy without feeling jittery, just a solid amount of energy and endurance, perfect for a long day in the hospital or a gym session. And C4 is actually NSF certified for sport, which means it's tested for over 290 banned substances, which is exactly why pro athletes trust C4 and how I know that what I'm putting in my body is safe. All their flavors taste great. This is the cherry popsicle. I've also had the frozen bombsicle and I absolutely love them. If you want to try it out or any of their other awesome flavors, you can really find them in most stores, or you can scan the QR code here on the screen. Whether you're a student, professional, an athlete, or you just like to casually work out, I highly recommend you check out C4 for that boost of energy that you need. And thank you so much again to C4 Energy for sponsoring this video.
Alrighty, off to the park?
Off to the park. Nailed it.
So what got you into running?
Well, when I was in medical school, I tried to run a mile during my second or third year, and I could not run it without stopping at like the quarter-mile mark. So I didn't like that feeling, so I decided I was gonna become a runner.
Didn't you just run your first marathon recently?
Yep, I think it was beginning of last month, my first ever marathon. It was super fun.
How was training for that during residency?
That was tough, I'm not gonna lie. I was on a lot of busy rotations, ICU, medicine, I was studying for step 3, and I basically had to just go to the park after work and just run at night in the dark or run on the treadmill. I even did like a 13-mile run on the treadmill one day because the weather was bad, and then if I only had like one day off a week, I would have to do my long runs on those days. It was rough, I'm not gonna lie.
But now that you've been running for a while, do you notice any differences in your health or your fitness?
Yeah, definitely my health. I feel like I actually do have more energy during the day, and I feel like, I don't know, the best shape that I'm in, I feel, is when I'm doing a lot of running. And so even though I've finished the marathon, I've actually kind of still been training as if I'm running for at least like a half marathon, because I just feel like that's kept me in the best shape so far. But what I think people underestimate is actually the mental benefits of training for a marathon, because when you're training for a marathon, you go on these long multiple hour runs just by yourself, and it forces you to kind of be in your own head. It forces you to do something that is really, really hard and put yourself in a headspace that allows you to get through it. And I feel like that makes you feel like you can kind of do anything else in life, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but I feel like most other things have almost felt easier. Like long days at work have felt easier. Getting up in the morning has felt easier. Getting through editing a video has gotten easier, just because I feel like it trained my mental stamina, and that was a benefit I did not realize I was gonna get from running a marathon.
Do you have any races coming up?
Yeah, I think that we're probably gonna run some in San Diego. I'll probably try to hit at least a half marathon in the next couple of months, hopefully another full marathon later this year. And then Eddie, you're gonna hit your first half marathon, right?
Yep. Ready to run?
Let's do it.
So do you have a warm-up routine?
Well, Eddie, just like most runners, no. Hit a couple of these bad boys. The best part about running is forcing your friends to do it too.
All right.
Good job. Gotta go get a sweet treat.
Thank you. Beverage is secured.
All right, guys. So showered up a little bit, got myself a little sweet treat, and now it's time to talk a little bit about how I stayed in shape while residency tried to kill me.
What are some tips or mindset shifts that you've had that have helped you stay in shape during residency?
Honestly, seeing exercise and fitness as a priority just as much as I prioritize residency and other aspects of my life was one of the biggest game changers for me. I think a lot of people see exercise as something that they try to fit into their schedule when they have time. But a lot of the times you don't have time, and you can find reasons to not have time to go to the gym or go for a run. What I found helpful was just telling myself that this is just as important to me as residency or as hanging out with my friends and family. And when you give it that level of priority, you make it a non-debatable in your daily life.
But even if you're making exercise a priority along with residency, how do you still make time for other things like socializing or stuff of that sort?
That's a great question. And I think that also comes down to being a mindset thing. I think a lot of people try to paint their goals as black and white. So if you're exercising, then you're not gonna be able to socialize. But what I found helpful was just using it as a way to kill two birds with one stone, essentially. So a lot of my fitness ventures aren't really solo. A lot of the times I'm actually doing them with friends or my brother, and I found that I'm able to not only stay in shape because of it, but I look forward to it as a form of socializing, and I look forward to seeing my friends and getting to go on these runs together or go to the gym together and accomplish all these goals, again, as something that we can share. And so for me, fitness and exercise has actually become more of a social thing, which again has kept me very motivated and looking forward to it. A great example of this is when I was training for my marathon. As you guys know, I ran it with my friends Megan and Stephanie. And that all started just because we would go for a couple runs together, and then we had the idea to do our first half marathon, which then snowballed into wanting to do our first full marathon. And again, it didn't feel like it was something I was doing solo. It felt like I was doing it with my friends. And even when I was going on my solo runs, I was texting my co-marathoners about it, and we would send each other, our times for that day or pictures of our new shoes, and it felt like a very social thing. And it even escalated to the point where I went to Alaska because Megan and I got so close through the marathon training. And now that we're marathon completers, we're even closer because we have this shared accomplishment together and are continuing to set goals that we're looking forward to in the future.
So does it help to have these goals to train for, like training for the marathon or, another kind of event?
I think that goal setting is super, super important. When you're in high school, your goal is to finish high school. When you're in college, your goal is to do well on your exams, get through college, graduate. When you're trying to get into a certain career, your goal is to work your way into that field and then to excel. And kind of like I said earlier, I feel like exercise is always like a second thought, like something that you fit into your schedule, but exercise is something that you should also be goal setting for. Think about when you were in middle school or high school and you were playing soccer for a club team or for your school, or if you were a gymnast, you're competing in competitions. You have very set goals that motivate you to keep doing what you're doing. But I think as we become adults and we become more career focused, I think we stop setting those kinds of goals. That starts to snowball into exercise becoming less of a priority. But if you have a goal in mind, for example, when I did my first Spartan race, and then I did my first Spartan trifecta, or my first half marathon, then my first full marathon, those were all goals that I had kind of laid out serially over the next year so that there was always something I was working towards. And that's exactly why I was so motivated even after a long day, for example, in the ICU to go running, because I knew that I didn't want to perform badly on my race that was coming up. So I think goal setting is something we should always be doing, even for our casual hobbies, because otherwise, what's gonna get you out of bed and wanting to accomplish that thing? Another good example is tricking. Tricking is a sport I've been doing since high school, and I told myself I wasn't going to stop doing it for as long as I could still do triple backflips and quadruple fulls. And so I train most Sundays every single week. And for me, that's just a non-debatable because it gives me something to want to keep working towards. Where if I want to have like a really good session on this day, then I'm going to optimize the rest of my week so that my body's in a good position to perform well.
So with all these events that you've had lined up over the past year, I imagine you've had some sort of training schedule that you've been sticking to. How do you go about sticking to that schedule even when you're on tough rotations?
That's a very good question. And it's tough. And sometimes you can't train as optimally as you would like to. And that's the position that I found myself in when I was training for my marathon, but I was spending an entire month doing inpatient medicine nights, followed by an entire month of being in the ICU. So I was literally working 80-hour weeks trying to train for a marathon, which if you guys have seen anyone train for a marathon, they usually are spending a lot more time training than I was able to. But again, that comes down to both tapering expectations as well as motivating yourself to do the thing that you signed up for. So in terms of my expectations, I knew it was gonna be tough to train. And so what I would do is I would still go on runs after my shifts, and it wasn't fun. Sometimes I was coming off of a night shift and going to the park at 8 in the morning, or I was coming off a long day in the ICU and going to the park at 8 at night. And I would just do what I could with what I had that day. So if it meant a 3-mile run, then that's what I did. And when I had my one day off in the week, then I would make sure to fit in my long runs on that day. So leading up to my marathon, for example, I only had 4 days off for that entire month, and that was every single Saturday. So every single Saturday, I did my long runs and tapered myself up until I hit my marathon. So again, it wasn't optimal, but it was possible. And I think that's the big thing that people forget about is you don't want perfection to be the enemy of good. I think with social media, we see all these people who have so much time to video and share their goals and accomplishments, and we think that if we're not doing that exact same thing, then it's not possible, when that's not true. I think that having contingency plans like, you worked late this day, so you can't do your 8-mile run, so instead you're going to do a 3-mile run and push the 8-mile run down, I think is good. I don't think that makes you a failure, and I think that's the wrong mindset that a lot of people have. And especially in residency, you can't look at other people who have extremely different careers and lifestyles and compare yourselves to them when you're working 6 days a week, sometimes even like 14 days in a row. You can't compare yourself. You're in a totally different position, and I think having that forgiveness of yourself and that expectation management of yourself, I think is just super important and is just a good trait and quality to have. That being said, you also kind of need to take some accountability and make time for the things that are important to you. And if this is important enough to you, then you should be able to fit into your schedule and, like I said already, treat it with that same level of priority. Sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of sleep on a busy rotation, and it sucks, and I've totally been there, and I'm kind of there right now, but again, it's important to me. Sometimes I think that the best time to make time for things is when you have less time. Because honestly, there's not gonna be perfect time to add changes to your schedule, add things to your routine, because there's always gonna be something new or something that comes up later. And I think that if you can handle these things in residency and make them habits in residency, you're gonna set yourself up for success when you go into attending hood.
So if you could summarize your mindset around, staying in shape in residency to like 1 to 2 sentences, what would they be?
Your life is what you make of it. You can let a busy schedule take control of you, or you can develop your own locus of control, and despite all odds and despite lack of sleep or a busy schedule, take control of your life and make time for the things that you really want to do, because this is the time to do it. And we're only getting older, and you're not going to want to look back and regret anything.
Well, I am out of notes. That's all I got.
All right, well, in that case, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully my mindset is something you guys are able to resonate with and take with you as you go through your busy careers, whether it's medicine or anything else. I know this video seemed a little bit random, but from now on, there's actually gonna be videos every single Wednesday, along with the scheduled weekly vlogs, of course. But this is a new format that we're playing with, so we would definitely appreciate your guys' feedback in the comments section below, and give us some ideas for some of the other types of videos you guys would like to see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.